I first showed up, I was excited by who was there as far as the cast, because I still didn't know who the psychic was going to be. But Katrina was there, Chatty was there, Serge was there, and the crew was really cool to me. Everybody was very nice. The word had kind of spread about the Rising show and the Spielberg connection because they had just done some planted press. So I think that kind of helped my landing, because the same day I was there, the head of the entire network was there, and also Betsy Schechter, who was one of the most powerful executive producers of Paranormal State, also happened to be there as well. So I did kind of think, if I do really well here, maybe I'll catch their eye or catch their attention, and maybe, they'll have me back for maybe one more episode. But, you can't bank on that because you just don't know what's going to happen. Well, right after I landed, the first thing that I hear is there's not going to be an episode because the clients have backed out. And I'm like, oh, shit, you're kidding me. And everybody's like, no. And I'm like, well, what's the deal? Well, from what I was told, and this happens, I don't want to say a lot, but it happens at least 2 or 3 times a season. When the crews show up, it kind of hits the clients that this is a big deal and it's going to be released to the world. And I completely understand how they can maybe not foresee that when they first write into A&E or into PRS to say, we need help, can you come help us? When you say, yeah, we'll come there and shoot a television show, if you don't know how television shows are made and you just watch Paranormal State, it just seems like there's a person running around with the camera following everything. Not that there's, a full production crew and grip trucks and lighting trucks and the whole neighborhood knows that you're filming, right? There's just a lot goes on in film production, and that's usually intimidating to clients, and I understand why. And then usually once they absorb the fact that this is going to be a bigger deal than they thought, they start thinking now about the reality of every single person I know is going to see this. From childhood friends to acquaintances of acquaintances. Trust me, you have no idea what it's like when you're featured on a show until it happens. And that was something that I knew was coming. And it happened to me too. I mean, believe me, friends of friends of friends that I never knew were messaging me going, remember when we hung out? Right up to family members I didn't even know that I had, to ex-girlfriends, to the last guy I got in a fight with in high school, who I couldn't even stand when I was around him, ended up getting a hold of me as well after I appeared on the episode. That's just part of it. Like, everybody in your life that trust me, they're going to see it or hear about it. And I think the clients, that kind of hits them all of a sudden. And the husband in this case had a professional job, and I believe it was in money management of some kind. Either he was an accountant or he was an investor or something, but he dealt with money, other people's money. And I think it just hit him that, wow, this could have an adverse effect on my career, because people may just think I'm crazy and not want to deal with me. And do I want to show up and deal with that? Totally understandable. I totally get it. I totally understand. I would be thinking the same thing, but I would think it through, obviously, before I got a film crew there, because now you're just burning money. It cost around $400,000 to shoot one episode of Paranormal State. So once we arrive, we are burning cash. So needless to say, when a client backs out, this is the worst scenario that a production company can face, because no matter what, the crew's getting paid, period. So they're just burning cash. They are burning cash, and they only have so many episodes, and they have to deliver those episodes to A&E. And how it works is they deliver the episodes, then they get paid. Okay? So not only are they burning cash, they're burning cash out of their pocket first, right? Then they get the money from A&E. So if they burn cash all day long and the client just stonewalls them and they can't turn in that episode, they're just out that cash. So it's a real quick way for a production company to lose $250,000 in a day, you know? So yeah, it's a bad situation. And even if you can get them to say yes, you want to get them to say yes as fast as you can, because the crew is still on the clock, meaning if it takes them until 6 p.m. at night, for example, we only have 6 hours now to make that day. And that's a 12-hour day, right? So the rest of the day, everybody's getting paid. We're just sitting around in a car waiting to see if we're going to do this until it's time for lunch. And then catering gets set up and everyone goes and eats. And so it's kind of this race to get things going. And you can't be too pushy, obviously, because the clients could just go, don't like your attitude. Get the fuck off my property. You know what I mean? So it's a really, really tough situation. And typically speaking, in my opinion, the worst people to talk to clients are producers, because by nature, they're fast. They talk fast, they move fast. That's the job of a producer, to solve problems really quickly. And sometimes it's a lot better to bring a cast member in, or somebody who can understand the client a little more, somebody who's dealt with the paranormal. Because I can tell you right now, these producers, they don't give a shit about the paranormal. They don't know anything about the paranormal. They don't care about the paranormal. It's not even real to them. They're there to try to push a story onto film. So when the client's talking about paranormal stuff, you don't want the person that doesn't care sitting across from them. So after the producers tried all morning long, eventually Ryan spent some time with the clients, and I heard, okay, it's back on. And this was right around lunchtime. And I'm going, okay, so we are shooting. And in the meantime, they're also setting up a backup case. They're looking how close is the closest person, where if we had to go somewhere tomorrow and make a whole episode out of 1 to 2 days shooting, could we do it? So all this madness is going on at once. And I'm starting to think we're probably not going to film this. We're really probably not. So what a waste of time. I flew all the way out to New Jersey, and that was it. And the first episode that I did, the first 3 episodes that I did actually were for free, which I don't even think is legal. But they paid for plane tickets, hotel room, and gave some ridiculous per diem. It was like $15 or something. Like you couldn't, besides going to the gas station, I don't know what you could live on for, $15 or fast food or some shit like the dollar menu or something. It was really, really bad. But I hear it's going on. We're moving forward. Okay. So we have lunch and we're getting ready to shoot, and I hear, okay, it's off again. I'm like, oh, Jesus, this thing's definitely done. It's not happening. So they basically set a marker where they're going to have to pull the plug if it's not done by a certain time. If memory serves me correctly, it was 2 p.m. And right before 2 p.m., I hear, okay, the clients are in. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we're going to go ahead and start the case. So they start doing the interviews with the family members, and I'm not involved in that because I'm there purely to aid in capturing evidence because, my stance that I don't want to be involved in anything religious kind of removes me from a lot of things that I could do because the family is devout Roman Catholic. And there's rosary beads everywhere in the house. There's, all the photos of the classical, white Jesus with the long brown hair, and there's crucifixes everywhere, and I'm cool with it again, but I'm just not sure with where I stand. So I just felt like to involve myself in that stuff when I don't know that I believe in it is disrespectful to them, and I did not want to be disrespectful to them. So at this point, I know we're shooting, but it still doesn't involve me in any way. So I'm just chilling, just waiting for dead time to come. So eventually they get to the psychic walkthrough, which I hear it's going to be a psychic named Kim Russo, which many of you may know her. She's had a couple shows since then, but she never appeared on the episode. When you guys watch the episode, you will see that it is Chip Coffey who appears on the episode. Well, what happened is Kim Russo flew in on the first night and got off the plane, drove to set, went inside to meet Ryan, and said something offensive to Ryan right away, like, unbunch your underwear up your butt or something like that. It was something that really pissed him off. And as quick as she came, he bounced her off that set. She was gone. So I'm like going, wow, does this always run like this? So not only do we start really late, the psychic that just flew in, I think from New Orleans, literally got in her car, drove to set, and within 20 minutes was kicked off the set and was on her way back to the airport. So there was no psychic walkthrough the first night. We went straight into the investigation, in which I ended up walking through some big field and looking for these lights that they said they saw on the field, and nothing happened. It was the most boring, uneventful dead time that I'd ever been a part of, and I thought it would be because we're walking through an open air field in which, you know, there's all the sounds of an open air field. There's insects, bugs, all this stuff. I mean, there's total contamination. And unless some massive bright light started hovering off the ground that we can film, there was just nothing that was going to be found out there. And I prefer investigations when they're indoor because there's a multitude of activity that can be recorded if things are locked down versus outdoor in the open air. So day 2 comes, and that's when I hear Chip Coffey has been contacted, which I know Chip. I've known Chip for years at that point, and Chip was on his way. So I'm excited about that because I'm comfortable around Chip. I feel comfortable around everybody on the set at this point. But as far as my role, I mean, I've been a complete non-factor. I mean, they could have stuck a tripod in my place and it would have done just as well. So there was really no reason for me to be there at this point. And, to be honest, I'm kind of resigned to the fact that it's going to be a free weekend to see some friends, and I'm cool with that. That's fine. If I don't, wind up on a frame of the episode, that's fine. It was a good time. I never really looked further than that. So we have dead time after Chip does his walkthrough. We have a dead time in the basement in which I'm downstairs and I'm sitting in the corner of this basement. And the reason they sent me down there is the clients claim that there was a portal to hell, some kind of spiritual portal of evil in the basement. So I go down and I'm sitting in the corner of the basement, and the stairs out of the basement are right in front of me. And as I'm down there, after about, I think it's probably maybe 30 minutes of being down there, it starts getting really weird. It's hard to explain what I saw unless you've experienced it, but it's kind of like when darkness gets darker. It like becomes it goes from black to like jet black. I mean, where you can't see your hand in front of your face. And this was happening in different areas of the basement. And I've experienced this before, and typically this means something's fixing to go down. And I'm down there, and all of a sudden, there is this really loud growl. And it's so loud that it's heard through my IFB. Now, what my IFB is I'm wearing a microphone. We all are, okay? And then we have an IFB in our ear. And what that does, it allows us to hear everybody who's talking. So like I could hear the conversations going on upstairs. I can hear the director, the producer, all of that stuff. It's just a good way to kind of keep the production together so we all know what's going on. Well, this growl was so loud, it was picked up through my microphone and everybody heard it on the IFB. And right as that happened, I freaked out. I mean, I was so freaking scared inside, but I didn't move. I just sat there. And all I said was, there's something down here, bro. That line, there's something down here, bro. Now, that would come back later on. I'll explain why. So I was just letting people know, yeah, there's something down here. And it was scary. And then the growl happened again, and it was even louder, in which I just sat there, trying to look like a badass. Now, what's funny is when you watch the scene, that's how it appears. Like I'm just being growled at and I'm stone cold and I don't move. Truth be told, I was terrified. The reason I didn't run out of the room and run up the stairs to get out of there is because the growl came from the stairs. So I would have had to run through the growl to get out of the room, to get out of the basement. So eventually Ryan and Chip come downstairs, and it was a classic scene, probably one of the more memorable ones in the whole series.